session will focus on the real possibilities of supporting the Ukrainian economy and facilitating its connection with the single market. To lead this discussion and to introduce properly the other speakers, both in person and online, it's a pleasure to introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, to Jakub Boratyński, Director of Networks and Governance of the Directorate General for Internal Market, Industry, Entrepreneurship and SMEs at the European Commission. Jakub, buenos días. Buenos días. Un aplauso and a round of applause for him. And now we are going to welcome also on the online connection, if I may, two more speakers. Paula Pino, Deputy Director General for Coordination of the Just and Green Energy Transition. Paula, are you with us? Hola, Paula. A round of applause. You're getting a round of applause from the room, Paula, as well. And the other online speaker is Gennady Chishikov, President of the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I hope you can hear us.
Yes. Hello.
Yes. You're online. So with this, with Anna and Sofia, and of course in the capable hands of Jakub, I leave you to it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Well, so we are coming to the final stage of the European Industry Days, and I think this is really, in a way, quite symbolic, because Ukraine is about now, but it's very much about the future. We are approaching now nearly 600 days of full-scale aggression of Russia against Ukraine. The consequences of this unprecedented war has been absolutely devastating for Ukraine's economy, people, infrastructure, and regrettably, even if some people kind of get used to it, just yesterday we had absolutely horrific Russian attack that led to the death of 52 innocent civilians in the village of Hroza in Kharkiv region. But let me just, few kind of flashbacks of, for the past 600 days. I remember very well Minister Kaczka, when you came to April, to the European Commission in April last year, I think we have been all amazed, we have been, this was really the first weeks of the war, but you were actually talking about the future, about Ukraine, the single market, about how it is important to make sure that Ukrainian economy functions, and I think this is very much this message of hope and resilience that I think has been very much with us for all those years. Those 2 years. Few very important moments. In June last year, the European Council granted candidate status to Ukraine. That was truly historical moment. February this year, the College of Commissioners went to Kiev, to reaffirm the support of the Commission of the European Union to the prospect of Ukrainian membership. And as the moderator mentioned, this commitment has been just, reaffirmed in Granada, where the leaders of EU and the neighboring countries came together. Throughout all these months, what has been really remarkable was this commitment of Ukrainian entrepreneurs to get going. And we just, during the session of young entrepreneurs, heard from Ruslana, who indeed, after the initial shock, decided, to restart, to go back and restart her business. So we have really a wonderful panel. So I'm really happy we have with us Paula Pino, who is director in DG Energy. She will share with us this amazing history of actually how, in practice, Ukraine, has been connecting with us within the single market, within the energy system. I'm so much, even though you are not with us physically, Minister Kaczka, I'm really grateful to you, Taras, that you join us, and we will be having a very also good exchange with you. And we have two representatives of Ukrainian business community. Gennady, very nice to see you. Again, I was very happy to meet you in person last year in Prague when you came with the delegation of Ukrainian business community activists from the Enterprise Europe Network. We will talk with you about the current challenges, and we have with us Anna Derevianko, who is Executive Director of European Business Association, and finally Sofia Burnu, who is a very important person in Business Europe, working on how to connect European EU business community with our Ukrainian partners. So before I will go to the panel, let me just maybe restate a few very important elements of where we are. I mean, EU is, Kerstin was saying yesterday why we are in G7, not because we have an army, but because we have a single market. And I think this vision of Ukraine in the single market was something that indeed sounded very, in a very spectacular manner in the message from Ursula von der Leyen exactly a year ago when she addressed the European Parliament and basically all Europeans about the key plans for the European Union in the months to come. Now, most of you are probably aware, there is a strong political commitment basically to dedicate 50 billion euro as so-called Ukraine facility, even though we continue to have difficult discussions about the revision of EU budget. There is a clear political commitment from great majority of member states to go forward. This money will be for 4 years for budgetary supported investment. And obviously, this we also hope would be very much leverage for the private investment that would be also the key. These days, we have very intensive work on the Ukraine plan that would be basically a blueprint of how this Ukrainian facility would be implemented. And the pillar 2 of the facility would be a key instrument for the Commission to mobilize investment for Ukrainian recovery. War insurance, we can talk about it later as well, but I think this has been really raised by the business community as a key element, enabling element, to get the economic cooperation going. In spite of the ruthless, let's say, Russian tactics of blocking the exports of grain, which the minister rightfully reminded us, go back to ancient times, has basically spurred a lot of, creativity and innovation with basically using Ukrainian Danube ports, with using solidarity lanes, online, I think, on land, and all of this, I think, has been very instrumental into making sure that basically significant part of the Ukrainian grain goes to the international markets. Well, of course, also thinking about the future, there are important reforms related to the business environment, which would need to happen in the years to come to actually unlock the full potential of this basically generic huge effort, international effort to help integration of Ukraine into the single market. So now I would like to turn to my panelists. I would like to start with Paula. So Paula, you have been indeed, playing a key role in these first dramatic days of the war, which apart from obviously very gruesome news, we have this amazing development related to connection, to let's say a very literal connection of Ukraine to the European single market. Could you please maybe share with us that experience and also, what we have been doing, and what lessons we learned from basically also helping Ukraine to get through the winter, but in a way that was, as I understand, also basically a practical way of basically fully integrating Ukraine into our energy union. So Paula, over to you.
Yes, good morning, Jakob. What a pleasure to be part of this distinct panel. And I wish I could be there with you, but at least we make it online. And indeed, it's really an honor to be able to share some of the experience that I've been going through with the teams here in the Commission and in DG Energy, along with our Ukrainian friends and partners. And indeed, as you mentioned, on the infamous night of the 24th of February, something was happening in parallel, which of course we could not have foreseen such a coincidence. But for a long time, the European Commission had been working with Ukraine, with Ukrainian authorities, with the transmission system operators of the whole of the European Union on synchronizing the Ukrainian electricity grid, still associated with Russia, and Moldova, by the way, to the European electricity grid. And this was meant to be a test, merely a test. So Ukraine would desynchronize from Russia for a couple of days. We would test the system, and this was part of a long process which was aiming at eventually reaching indeed a synchronization with the EU electricity grid. Now, of course, nobody could anticipate that this very same night the Russian aggression started, and Ukraine found itself desynchronized from Russia and not wanting to ask Russia to be synchronized again after a few days. And this meant that it would then stay basically synchronized with the EU grid. And this meant we had to go through an emergency procedure and have really all the transmission system operators across the whole of the EU working towards making this possible. You can imagine, with the size of Ukraine, synchronizing the electricity system of this big territory with the EU, of course, posed risks in terms of stability of the whole grid in the EU. And we were in uncharted waters. This process was supposed to be taking another year. The fact is that within 1 month, by the 16th of March, we had definitely stabilized and connected, synchronized the Ukrainian electricity system and the Moldovan one with the European electricity system. This was merely for stabilization purposes at the beginning. Nobody was even considering trading electricity. Well, the fact is that today we are able to export electricity to Ukraine, and what is more incredible, Ukraine is capable and has exported electricity to the EU. We are now at the possibility to export about 1,200 megawatt to Ukraine and Moldova, and to import from Ukraine 400 megawatt. And we're continuing to work on increasing this capacity. It's not often enough mentioned, this incredible achievement, which was already a sign of the solidarity among the EU between member states who made it really possible, and all the transmission system operators, and also the determination by Ukraine to do so. And I have to say that over the winter, and of course we expect that could be some oscillations in the grid, it's remarkable how Ukraine has managed to always stabilize the grid. And I think it's an immense success story that cannot be repeated times enough.
Thank you very much, Paula. We will also be talking later on about, how we can actually move on with further integration of Ukraine into the energy system, and obviously we will have another challenge of the winter ahead of us. Minister Kaczka, you are playing, I would say, on a daily basis, a very active role on the front line of making sure that Ukraine takes most of what is now, let's say, the framework association agreement and deep and comprehensive free trade agreement. You mentioned, of course, the progressing negotiations concerning ACA. How you see basically this process of moving towards the single market going forward? I mean, what you see as examples of actually a success, and where you feel this is getting actually hard and you are facing headwinds?
I think this question, this agreement, which is like core for industrial policy, but as well, I think that one of more boring topics. Yes, so that usually the most important things are as well boring. But I think that we are in the process that is very similar to what we had, to what Paula presented, because what happened on 24th of February with energy grids was like a launch a rocket to the space, so that it was the one moment thing that is based on years of individual reforms, planning, checking, implementation, etc. And now with agreement on conformity assessment and acceptance, we are like somewhere very close to the final agreement. So after many years of adoption of EU standards, of changing the quality assurance infrastructure, we went through the set of assessment by EU experts, very thorough assessment, very detailed assessment of how quality assurance system operates in Ukraine. And this assessment is really positive. That it means that we already have quality assurance system that is very close to the EU one, with one exception that I will talk about. So generally, we see that the EU system of standards already helps Ukrainian companies to increase business ties with EU companies, because we have the same system of marking, we use EN standards, etc. As well, our accreditation system with laboratories operates on the rules and principles that are applied in the EU already now, today. So that's why we have this system already operates in Ukraine in a way that operates in the European Union. So it means that we already did a lot in order to help Ukrainian companies and EU companies to talk to each other in language. So engineers talk to each other in one language. So, but from bureaucratic point of view, we need to implement the final set of recommendations as defined by EU experts. We already have this report submitted from the EU Commission to us, and we are trying to, in very fast manner, to implement these recommendations already this year, with one minor exception that that is very important for open strategic autonomy. So that one of elements of the agreement on conformity assessment and acceptance is a system of market surveillance. Market surveillance, this is something about controlling Ukrainian market and about the quality of products that are placed on Ukrainian market. And unfortunately, as I mentioned in my speech previously, that for many years we've been like really open economy with a market flooded by a lot of products that are incompatible with EU standards or Ukrainian standards because of weak institutions. So, and it also increased the impact and the role of the market of let's say competing economies. So that's not to mention particular states. So that's why now we are concentrated on development of the proper control on market surveillance in Ukraine. And it is well a really good sign for EU producers and Ukrainian producers, because these market surveillance institutions that we are now start to develop as a last element of the broader quality assurance infrastructure will help to clean the market for the goods that are produced in line with EU standards by Ukrainian companies, EU companies, of course, companies from third states, because we are still very, very open, but mainly the European companies that are working with EU rules and EU standards. And we believe that as well will help us to increase these economic ties between Ukraine and the European Union. And I hope that in 4 months, not years, but we will successfully conclude this agreement, and it will be really a major breakthrough for industrial cooperation between Ukraine and the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Taras, for these words. And let me indeed actually pick up two elements of what you said, because I think indeed, we sometimes have this tendency to speak about single market a bit in abstract or very macroeconomic terms, but you are very right. I mean, one essential element is, of course, making sure that actually we really facilitate, we create ways, we put the oil into basically developing ties and links and ultimately trust between companies, between entrepreneurs from EU and Europe. And again, you know, in DG Grow, in my team, we are working quite a lot in this direction. In that context, I wanted to recall the fantastic event we held with our Slovak partners in March of this year, where nearly 100 representatives of Ukrainian clusters of Ukrainian businesses came to indeed discuss and you know, establish links with European partners. So I think this is a direction that would have to be properly also reflected in the Ukraine plan for Ukraine and Ukraine facility. And secondly, you know, very close to my heart, you mentioned market surveillance. Again, you know, single market is, in order to function, needs, I would say, good plumbing, you know, and one of that is indeed making sure that we have a system of enforcement of rules that product entering which are on the single market, you know, are respecting the variety of technical standards as well as safety requirements. And I think we are facing, of course, big challenges not just in relation to accession of Ukraine, but it is a huge task for market surveillance authorities. We are very happy that Ukraine joined EU product compliant networks, but again, it's, you know, as a practical demonstration that, of course, in the times of war, it's hard to have inspections. Nevertheless, again, we are pleading, you know, where it's sort of, you know, relatively safe, it's very important it's being done, because this is also a kind of a practical expression of how we can increase the trust that, you know, that the single market with Ukraine is going to function for the benefit of everyone, of all citizens. Now I would like to turn to Hennady. Hennady, you are the president of Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, and we are very happy you are also a host for the Ukrainian part of the consortium, which is hosting Enterprise Europe Network, which is the biggest worldwide network of supporting SMEs. To actually adapt to all those challenges. And I'm sure that especially when we talk about resilience, which is so important for our SMEs, we have a lot to learn from our Ukrainian friends. So what is your take, you know, about the current business environment, about how, you know, entrepreneurs are adapting to the situation and how they are engaging with European companies? So I would very much welcome reflections from your side on that matter.
Thank you, Jakub. I still remember our last meeting with you, with a lot of your friends and colleagues who are now in this hall. My best regard from the Kiev, from the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce. We very much appreciated this today meeting, because for Ukraine, for Ukrainian business, we need to send very clear message. European business, European single market is very important for us. And the million of Ukrainian business entities think how to work, and hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian business started to do real work in the direction to be the real partner in the European market. And our slogan, not to ask about the assistance, we would like to work on the principle win-win. This is for us very important. That's why, despite, as you mentioned, very critical situation at the first year of the war, when the Ukraine lost nearby 30%, 29.2% of our GDP, when we lost nearby 30% of our export, then the inflation was 26.5%, and the unemployment 21%, according to our official statistics. Despite these very dramatic figures, Ukrainian biggest demonstrated their resilience. We understand what's the future of Ukraine in the European orientation. And now we are looking for any type of possibility how to make more stronger relation between Ukrainian market and European market. And Of course, the situation in Ukraine was not so easy, but at the same time, I prefer to speak a little bit, started to speak from the more optimistic things, more optimistic figures. For us, for Ukraine and for Ukrainian business, it was very important. But during the war, our banking system working quite good. It's very, and the banking system support Ukraine to work inside of Ukraine and outside. Ukraine, despite this dramatic situation, despite what the nearby 20% of our territory occupied, demonstrated the resilience. I will share with you only one figure our deputy minister mentioned on this, but at the same time I would like to attract your attention. Despite the war, this year our harvest will be bigger than before the war. You can imagine Ukraine during the war demonstrated were quite proactive work. And probably this is a unique situation when during the war, Ukraine, maybe it's a unique country who doesn't ask about the food support. Ukraine are ready to export our agriculture production to all the world. But at the same time, we need to understand how to do this. It's quite difficult. Before the war, we exported nearby 100 million tons of our products. For this reason, we used 18 seaports in Azov Sea, Black Sea, and Dunay. And for us now, it's a very big challenge how to change our logistics. That's why we have one very big window. This is Europe. This is European Union, and we very much appreciated our neighbor countries like Poland, Slovakia, Moldova, Romania, Hungary, many countries who supported and understand the situation. Of course, time to time we have some difficulties, but this is, from my point of view, if I can say, just to attract attention how important we are one to another. And this is, I demonstrated how now for us very important to find the new logistic model how to cooperate with the European Union. And this is not for 1 year, because Ukraine business has this, if I can say, now the strategical point. We understand what the future of our cooperation with Russia, first of all, with Belarus, it's stopped for years. That's why we need to find some new logistic direction, infrastructure possibilities. That's why we organize a lot of meetings with our neighbors in Poland, in Slovakia, in Czech Republic, and many other countries, just to find how to find this solution, win-to-win. And Ukraine can be not only a country and the Ukrainian business who will ask about the support. We are ready to be an important partner for Europe. Despite the war, time to time, we was the exporter of the electricity to the Europe. Of course, we expect winter. Paula said about the very importance for Ukraine to be the part of energy union, energy system of Europe. But at the same time, we understand in the future, Ukraine has more potential to be the very, the partner of European Union, like a country who will export a lot of energy. We have potential for development of our gas deposits, oil deposits, and more important, I see in our business society what's now the main direction for the future, and this is green energy. Yeah. And for Ukraine, it will be very, very important. In general, despite the war, of course, we see such type of sector of economics, like Mr. Kachka mentioned, what IT sector, innovative sector demonstrated positive results of the last year. In agriculture, we have the positive results. But at the same time, we lost a lot in the metallurgical sector. You remember what metallurgical sector was critical for Ukraine. We lost nearby 50% of our capacities. But more important, on the level of the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce and businesses, what we see, more than 85% of Ukrainian business working or ready to continue their works. This is very big potential. And very interesting figures. During the war, the quantity of the new open enterprises was practically the same was before the war. This is, for me, like a president of the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce, very important. Ukrainian is very much oriented to the continued business. And one more figures, one more point. Despite the war, Ukrainian business think how to develop. This is relocation of business work. Yeah. Thousands of Ukrainian businesses open their businesses in Poland, in Slovakia, etc. Yeah. That's why, from my point of view, situation is not easy, but Ukrainian business is quite demonstrated resilience and go forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Hennady. That was really a message, of definitely of hope, of demonstrating, the integration in spite of the war of Ukraine into basic European supply chain in some critical areas. And again, I think this data which you present indeed is a source of hope. It's not that we do not have problems. And I think it's also important that we will actually look at those also as part of our discussion. I would like to turn to Anna Derevianko. You are the Executive Director of European Business Association. Again, I think this story of resilience is a remarkable story. So maybe you can share your perspective on that. But also how we can take it forward. How actually the opportunity related by this, let's say, path towards single market, you see in practice, are taken advantage by the Ukrainian companies.
Good morning to everyone. First of all, thank you so much to DG GROW and all organizers of EU Industry Days. It's really very important for Ukraine to be present here and actually to be part of this exercise. So thank you so much for this. And also, I would like to start from saying big appreciation to Ukrainian government, actually, for keeping macroeconomic stability, macro-financial stability in place. Because this is really very essential for Ukrainian business community and for resilience of the community. Yeah. Of course, it cannot happen without support of international stakeholders, including European Union. So in this respect, my gratitude on behalf of the business community also goes to European Union for being for being actually with solidarity in Ukraine and for sharing commitment to Ukraine and to its fight with actually autocracy. So when it comes to the challenges of the business community and where we are, I totally agree with Gennady and with Taras Kachka, because the description is fully correct. We also observe that 99% of our businesses are either fully operational or with certain limitations, but nevertheless, 100% of our members, they continue to stay in Ukraine and to do business. They would like to continue, and they believe in the future, they believe in the victory of Ukraine, and they invest in Ukraine because they believe in the long term Ukraine will win. But obviously the situation is not that ideal and challenges still exist. Apart from rule of law, apart from effective fight of corruption, we have many others. But having said so, I think that actually EU accession process will help to tackle Ukraine these issues with rule of law and with fight with corruption. But nevertheless, when it comes to everyday challenges, they all come from insecurity. Because insecurity is #1 challenge for the business community in Ukraine. Then comes anything else, like, for example, logistics, because it's obviously very difficult to export products from Ukraine, especially from agricultural and metallurgical sector. So, of course, companies are resilient. They are finding ways, but nevertheless, it's not an easy exercise, especially when from one side, European Union supports Ukraine, but then also in parallel, we have Poland and other countries who would like actually to create certain barriers also for products coming out from Ukraine. So I think here we should find some compromises and joint actions in order to allow Ukraine really keep the economy afloat, to reduce the pressure also to European Union. Then also the next challenge, because of insecurity, is migration of people and labor market, because you know that actually over 6 million people left Ukraine, and it also causes disbalances on the internal labor market. And it also causes things connected to the shortage of high-skilled labor in certain cases, also the raise of salaries, because you know that actually all our members, they continue to pay salaries in Ukraine, they even increase paying salaries to companies, to their people. But at the same time, we see that people are really very strong. They have strong spirit. At the same time, they are tired. Just simply tired. People are exhausted. And we have the issue of mental health as well in the country. So that's why this is something which business pays attention on. The next issue, the next challenge would be really poor access to finance. And there are investors, but there is no a long line of investors. We have such companies as Nestle investing 43 million euros, Philip Morris 23 million euros, BASF, Bayer 60 million euros, and lots of others, Unilever 20, but nevertheless it's not enough. And we understand that political risks insurance could be that instrument which could allow and will allow companies to have more investors in place. And that will, by the way, support your economies, your actually countries, by means of supporting your businesses to expand. So, of course, we can actually continue taken challenge by challenge. There are lots of them. They appear on everyday basis. But nevertheless, companies have no choice. If they stay in Ukraine, they need to adjust to this constantly changing normality. And my message in this respect to the EU companies, I would say in such a way, because obviously we are in Europe, and by the way, thank you so much to Spain for hospitality and to Malaga in particular for keeping actually a very high spirit here. But I think that the messages are as follows. First, do not consider Ukrainian business community as your competitors. It's really very essential. Please consider us, the business community in Ukraine, as your partners. And Taras has already elaborated on that a little bit. Gennady added as well. Really, let's try to find some opportunities for working together, because obviously Ukraine is a basis for smart people, professional people, resilient people, which you see as well, but nevertheless, they can also bring value to the European companies, to European industries. And by the way, example of this resilience is also how we have overcome winter, because also those blackouts, all those things, they were really tough, but nevertheless, now when we face another winter, the business community is prepared, frankly. They have all the generators in place. Thank you also to European Union actually for supplying that, but nevertheless, we see that every company now understands that it needs to address the issues and it needs to overcome the winter, whatever it is. So it will have the access to the energy by their means, and they will have actually opportunity to get access to the internet. So the message, consider Ukrainian business community as your partners, and we are on the eve of the road to European family. So soon I hope that the accession talks will start, and it means that we have to find some compromises, and we to find ways how to really make this way shorter and smoother. Then second message, invest in Ukraine. trade with Ukraine, place orders in Ukraine, because from outside it seems that almost nothing happens in Ukraine apart from war. But it's not true, because businesses continue to function. Restaurants work, theaters work, all the social infrastructure works, companies work, production works. So that means that Ukrainians will fulfill their obligations, that's for sure. But by means of placing orders, by means of giving business, Ukrainian business some opportunity to grow, you will again reduce the pressure on your own budgets by means of actually keeping the economic activities in Ukraine afloat and being alive. And then the final message is, because I understand that it may be very difficult for you probably to enter the market, you might not know how to make it done, you might not know the stakeholders, like Ukrainian partners do not know how to cooperate with you as well, right? But nevertheless, in this respect, I offer you cooperation on the basis of Global Business for Ukraine, which is extraterritorial business development arm of European Business Association. And EBA in Ukraine has over 900 companies. So by being closer to us, by being connected to us, you will have the opportunity to practically implement integration process between Ukraine and the EU. I will stop here.
Yes, Anna, thanks a lot for raising these points. Yeah. Thanks for the applause from the audience.
Yeah,
I think you actually remind us about a very fundamental issue. Again, if you go back to the big enlargement, I'm personally coming from Poland, so I also remember the fears on both sides, and well, the big picture is what people understood, it's the right direction, but there were quite some fears, and some people thought there must be losers, and of course, I mean, I'm not saying that there were never any losers.
There will be losers.
There will be some losers, but it is definitely not a zero-sum game. So I think this is indeed a very important task of indeed building the bridges between the Ukrainian and European business community to actually indeed make the powerful case for the fact that there would be indeed mutual benefits. It won't be easy, it won't be always straightforward, and indeed negotiation process would be a very important element of that.
But we should learn from Poland, because it seems to me Poland did really very good job in terms of actually utilizing the benefits of European Union.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I must say also as a historian, originally, we've never had such a good time in 300 years, as we had, indeed as a result of the European integration process. I would like to turn to Sofia. I mean, you work with Business Europe, with European companies who are interested in Ukraine, but they have also fears. And so what is actually your perspective on that? How we can encourage without actually also lying, being also truthful about the problems that we have?
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, from me as well. Let me start by giving you a little bit the picture of who we are in Business Europe, whom we represent, and why we are so interested in Ukraine. Business Europe is the employer and industrial associations umbrella for European, let's say, businesses. And we go beyond the EU27 member states. And I want to start with this point because we have very recently welcomed 2 Ukrainian business associations as observers in Business Europe, which means that we have the opportunity to enhance our collaboration with Ukrainian business partners. Of course, this can be broader to the whole civil society spectrum, and we also have an institutional role in this respect because Business Europe, along with other members of the Ukrainian businesses and also trade unions and NGOs, participate in the monitoring bodies for the association agreement between the EU and Ukraine, and also the DCFTA, the Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Area. So we have discussed actually about the single market and opportunities and approximation since 2014 at least, since the entering into force of the association agreement and the DCFTA. And what we have seen over the years is a good progress in this respect. Of course, the picture is not always rosy, it's not always perfect, but we do have a steady, if you like, progression towards integration between the EU single market and Ukraine in many different areas. Goods, services. We have a lot of efforts when it comes to customs. We have a lot of efforts when it comes to public procurement. There are challenges remain, but of course this is one area. Competition. The point I want to make here is that of course, we discussed, and both the minister and the other representatives of business touched upon this, that approximating with the EU single market is not only having access to this market, it is actually being able to compete in the EU. This is a key point for us. Of course, we are partners, but if a Ukrainian company cannot, have a share in the EU single market, then the whole point is actually missed. And this is why we are so much talking about the standards, about the level of approximation, about how difficult it is and how businesses can work together to help each other. So I want to take this message that integration to the single market means also that you are able to compete on the same and fair level as EU companies. This is key in order also to maintain the integrity of the single market. Now, I think that because you touched upon the difficult point of the liberalization of trade, as Business Europe, of course, we support every type of measure that liberalizes trade between EU and Ukraine. And of course, in a way that it respects international rules and it does not breach the EU's international obligations. Therefore, we are also hopeful that some flexible solutions will be found in this area. And we look forward to hearing from the Commission on this one soon. I understand that there is work ongoing in this front. So definitely looking at this space. Now, you asked me about the challenges that companies continue to face, and I think that we have more or less discussed about these areas. Of course, logistics. Yes, indeed, the green lanes, the solidarity lanes helped a lot, but problems remain. Anna mentioned about the export problems. I would also like to mention about the import problems, because you have companies with production in Ukraine that cannot get raw materials or components to complete their production in Ukraine. So the other way around, being able to import when you are in Ukraine is also very, very important, both on raw materials and components. And then, of course, you mentioned the risk insurance and the war insurance. Yeah. Yes, this is indeed the main priority of European companies, because the premium is very, very high. Yeah. Which makes it impossible to, invest in Ukraine in the current conditions. And we are very well aware that the European Commission and the finance institutions, including the EBRD, are working on solutions. But the understanding that we have is that maybe they are not fully scalable. And this means that we need to combine different forces, also perhaps look at the efforts of other donors and see what can be done in this respect so that we have a more coherent approach and that we are able to cover as much of the risk area as possible to allow companies to go to Ukraine. Because, of course, it's one thing for companies that were already in the market and production was there, they were able to adapt, they were able to go back to production, even if necessarily not in the pre-war levels, but still the effort and the resilience and the adaptability of the businesses in Ukraine is there. But what about new investments? And I think that this is very critical when we talk about the reconstruction efforts of the country and the process of the accession to the EU. And maybe my final point here, and the key message from Business Europe in this regard, is that we see the reform process in Ukraine, the reconstruction and the accession as they are also going to be an impediment to the accession process. We need to have an aligned approach there. We see this as one common effort, different pieces that need to fall together in order to have a positive agenda for the future. And of course, we are very committed to play a role in this respect. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. I mean, super interesting discussion. I see that we do not have so much time, but so I would like maybe, Taras, the question to you. You are obviously playing a very important role on the Ukrainian side in drafting the Ukraine plan, which is going to be the blueprint for not just of how we are going to spend the money, but a blueprint basically for the reconstruction of Ukraine, for the structural reforms. I mean, what are the three most important things, you know, that you feel you really, you know, are the biggest challenge and are make it or break it, basically, of this process?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I think that, first of all, this Ukraine plan is a part of EU project, Ukraine facility, the project of EU financial support to Ukraine. So that's why for us, this is a key foundation or key pillar of our resilience and survival, the financial support that EU provides to us. Just for the audience, I would say that I might say that in the budget, state budget of Ukraine for next year, all the revenues we have due to the war we spend for defense spendings, so that, and it's like all taxes from business are going there. Therefore, for the forthcoming years, I think that like this year and next year as well, we depend on support from international partners of the EU, the United States, IMF, IFIs, and we really glad that we have trust with you and support from your side. And this Ukraine facility is an attempt to also, so that is a very big bridge between financial support, the accountability of this financial support, because for us it is important to ensure that these fundings are spent well for the good and as they designed to be spent. So that's why this Ukrainian plan and Ukrainian facility is a part of this design. So this is important for us. This is important for Ukrainian business as well. And we as well highlight that all this support for macro-financial stability is based on the help from the EU. So that's why all Ukrainian society is really grateful for this support. Second element is, which is important, is really blueprint, as you say, for the reforms, because the Ukrainian plan is about the domestic policies on how to improve the situation with core elements like judiciary, anti-corruption, etc., but as well the inclusion policy, the human capital, the dialogue with social partners, social dimension of all policies of the government. So just how we promote the principles that are important to EU policy as well, and for us, because they are common as well. And of course, the economic policies like financial markets, the particular areas like energy, agriculture, and others, that the policies that are based on the principles that are common to between Ukraine and the European Union, and that these policy steps to be made by Ukraine within this plan are actually bringing us closer to the European Union in terms of let's say, complete implementation of the association agreement between Ukraine and the EU, and also bring us closer to the accession to the European Union. And the third element, which is particularly important for business, that Ukraine plan also designed the direction of the projects that might be financed within Ukrainian facility through the guarantee mechanism. And here for us it is important that we have like general framework with directions on climate-friendly technologies in industry, what we do with energy, with agriculture, etc., just to describe the direction of the projects or the topics of the projects that might be financed with financial support of the European Union through guaranteeing the loans that to be provided to the business in Ukraine and in the European Union. And generally this Ukrainian plan, so what is important is that this plan is so coordinated and assembled by our Ministry of Economy, but it is developed together with all line ministries, with business community, with social partners, with regional partners as well, and with European Commission, of course, because so that's why this document is really a blueprint for harmonious, yes, so or greater harmony in economic recovery and integration of Ukrainian whole society, not like Ukraine as a jurisdiction to the European Union. So this is really a good idea, and we really appreciate that the way how it was designed by European Commission, and I hope that we will keep our promises, and we will deliver with good quality plan that will be clear and acceptable for all stakeholders that are involved in economic recovery in Ukraine.
Yeah, thank you very much, Taras, and I would just maybe pick up what you said at the end. Indeed, it is very important that this plan would be a truly joint effort, and that would also, let's say, reflect the practical needs of the business community. We know that creating this glue between Ukrainian and European business community would be one of the essential factors for the success. Paula, very briefly, because indeed time is running, if you could mention maybe one thing that for you, or let's say on your desk, related to Ukraine, that you would be focusing now on, I guess, let's say short term and then more long term.
Thank you. Well, and I have to say that first I'm impressed by how much Ukraine, from the beginning, despite being in a war, continued to not lose sight of the mid and the long term afterward. And we see this in very concrete terms. We had a group which preceded the war, which is the EU-Ukraine high-level working group on energy market integration. We could have expected that, understandably, Ukraine would be less engaged and committed in these discussions. And it's really impressive that Ukraine never lost sight that there is a time after the war, and even now during the war, we need to continue the commitment to reforms and to work towards that. And so I would really put that as the main issue, where I'm very pleased, and all in the Commission and now in DG Energy, to see that Ukraine remains committed to it. We've spoken about the network integration. Network integration comes together with market integration. It's the subject of this discussion, and we're very pleased to see that Ukraine remains committed to it. We also, I liked hearing notably Sofia speaking, and also Gennady, of the fact that it's about decarbonization of the system. Absolutely. Because this will be the sustainable system of Ukraine in the future. And they're very pleased to say that we've just laid down the foundations for our long-term cooperation on renewable gases with Ukraine, by signing last February a memorandum of understanding on a strategic partnership on biomethane, on hydrogen and other synthetic gases. So really looking into what is the potential of Ukraine, even now already, and beyond the war. So full encouragement to keep up this work on market integration, on the reforms, which, by the way, are a conditionality associated also to the facility, to the Ukraine facility. And we believe that indeed there are the conditions, and Ukraine definitely has the determination, the resilience, and the business to carry out such reforms. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Paula, and your reflection about, of course, that it is not just integration in the energy market, but indeed, well, time is ruthless. So what I'm just suggesting, we have now 3 representatives of business community. Let's say one message from your side that you want really to have both EU and Ukrainian policymakers to always remember, to have on the top of their mind. So I will maybe reverse the order, and we'll start with Sofia.
Thank you very much. I will be very brief. My message to the policymakers: talk to your constituencies, including businesses and civil society organizations. Our voice is very important to get the reforms right.
Anna.
My message to policymakers is that, and Taras knows that the business community leaves no chance to the government just to put business aside, because business community will continue knocking the door of the policymakers, suggesting proposals and arguments. So the governments will not be alone, that's for sure, and we will be their credible partners, and we will make everything possible in order to facilitate trade and investments between Ukraine and European Union and create two-way street, practically two-way street.
Thank you very much. Anna, Hennady, over to you. Message from Kyiv.
My message will be very simple. We are stronger together. When the business working with our partner abroad, when we working very close to the government, we became strong. And always, I'm absolutely sure it will be, and we see, it will be win-win process to our cooperation.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Hennady. Maybe a few words.
Stronger together, and the message to policymakers is stronger together. Don't forget about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I must say that, anyway, thanks a lot for this very rich discussion. I mean, we definitely see a lot of resilience, a lot of hope, also readiness to speak about the problems, and the problems will increase. I mean, we are, what is EU? EU is a rich community of diverse democracies, you know, the problems that we see also clearly, you know, sometimes refer to election cycles, but I think we all share the long-term objective, which is basically Ukraine fully integrated into the European family. For us in DG GROW, you know, let's say the curators of the single market, for us it is really essential to see Ukraine progressing in this process. I mean, basically wherever we can, we involve our Ukrainian partners. And this dialogue with business community is something which we are very much committed to nurture and support. We are supporting Ukrainian clusters, Ukrainian EEN. We are just starting, unfortunately not too big, but a project that is helping Ukrainian companies to establish link with European partners. And last but not least, a bit of an advertisement. We basically have an online meeting every month, which has a very simple name now, Focus Group on Ukraine, which is basically an occasion to everyone interested from the business community, also from member state authorities, to tune in and basically, you know, see what's going on. There is a lot of things that would be happening over coming months, notably on this extremely important issue of credit and risk insurance, you know, which is something that we need to make it work. Well, once again, thanks a lot. Please give applause to our fantastic panelists.
And to our lovely moderator.
So we almost came to the end, but we have still very important part. I give the floor to our host.
And your host is here. So thank you very much for this amazing panel. I also want to thank you to those of you who have been with us online. It's been a pleasure to have you. And now we would